Hey, I got asked to speak at a homeowners association meeting about the history of their section of Royal Ridge, and it reminded me that it might be nice to uh, put something together just about the history of the neighborhood in general, with specifics on the townhomes and garden homes in Royal Ridge. Um, so I wanted to kind of break down the history of the area and then separate it into the garden homes and townhomes specifically, and some unique things to know about them that if you moved in the last 10, 15, 25 years, probably don't know. Anyway, my father and grandfather back in 1966 bought Windcrest Development Corporation, which amounted to other things besides the swimming pool and golf course and clubhouse over in Windcrest, but that was where they officed. And they did that for a few years. And along that time, they were still buying lots from other people to build their houses on. And that was it was limiting, and they didn't like it, and so they decided that they were going to buy some land and develop their own lots, which is what Royal Ridge, how that came into being. And I remember being a little kid riding out there with them when it was just nothing but dirt roads through the trees, and they put together a plan for the whole neighborhood, which had where everything was going to go long term before they ever got started. And it was interesting. Crown Ridge was the first area that they built. They bought the plans for Crown Ridge out of California, I understand, and it was a big success. Apparently, a lot of people that had large yards in Windcrest and didn't really want it anymore thought it was a great idea to move over to a townhouse where someone else was doing the maintenance of the yards outside, and there really wasn't a yard to take care of, but you still lived virtually in the middle of a park. And it's, the architecture's dated now, but it holds up. It's a very unique thing. In fact, it may very well have been the first plan unit development in San Antonio. Plan unit developments, or PUDs, are created when, for example, townhouses require a certain number of feet for front footage on a street, and garden homes as well, and single family homes. And there are different amount of footages depending on what you're building. Well, if you don't have any street frontage at all, that's an exception, and that's where you get a plan unit development. I'm told it's possible that was the first one in San Antonio. Not positive about that. Didn't get a chance to ask them while they were alive, but I thought that was interesting. They joked about Crown Ridge taking 6 months to sell and 3 years to build. It was successful, but people that bought there, I think, were pretty vocal about the fact that they wanted two things. They didn't love the fact that it was just carports. They wanted garages and were willing to pay more. And they also wanted downstairs bedrooms. None of the two-story plans that they bought out of California had bedrooms downstairs. The one-stories, of course, but the two stories, all bedrooms are up, even on the two-bedroom, 1.5 bath plan. So they started building down the hill from there. When they did that, when they started putting the roads in the area, a couple of things that they did, because there were personal pet peeves of theirs. One was they made the streets 4 cars wide. That ate up valuable land they could use for building houses, but they really wanted people to be able to park cars in front of houses and still drive between them without people having to take turns, et cetera, like it is on many neighborhood streets. And so they did it that way. And also the paved alleys, which there are a lot of in Royal Ridge, are also compacted to the same numbers as the front streets, so that you've got streets that hold up over time. If you go to some areas that have paved alleys, you'll see that the way they saved money was they didn't compact the alleys very well at all, and they turn into roller coasters as the streets get older. Now, some of those have gotten so old that they've had to completely resurface them anyway, but you can tell as neighborhoods age when they do that and don't do that. Insofar as the differences, when they got down the hill from building Crown Ridge and they started building Townhomes 1 and Townhomes 2, and then Garden Homes 1 and Garden Homes 2, the original townhomes did have garages, of course, and had downstairs bedrooms. On the 2 stories, it was just the masters. They did a very unique thing and put concrete block walls through between the buildings, because they really didn't want sound to be transferred between the units. And it was very successful. I've heard many times over the years how quiet those units were, and it was very expensive to do, so you don't see it anywhere else around town. They also put block walls for fences in between the yards because they didn't want people on opposite sides of a cedar fence listening to each other through the cracks, and so they did that for privacy, which later necessitated drains going under the garages and the houses so that the backyards didn't turn into swimming pools during heavy rains, because you've got that big concrete footing underneath the walls, and it literally is surrounded by concrete back there, so it's important to keep those drains open. The townhouses also utilized a relatively new technology, truss joists, which are basically wooden I-beams. They're in the garage ceilings, all of them, which enabled them to not have a center post between the cars that were parked in there so that they wouldn't hit their door on the post. And also they used them inside too for noise, to dampen noise between upstairs and downstairs. In the exterior of the townhomes, as well as the garden homes, they utilized a contractor that was a commercial contractor. They did, at the time, all the HEBs that were built. They were the go-to stucco contractor for HEBs. So the stucco on the exteriors of the townhomes and the garden homes, for the most part, is basically commercial quality. The garden homes, I mentioned, one of the things that people don't notice right away, they were designed where all of the alleys, all of the patios face east. They didn't want the west setting sun heating up the patios. So you'll notice on Royal Breeze, as the homes round the bend, they flip so that the patios can continue to be on the east side of the house. And those houses are relatively unique in another way, is that they created a 5-foot use easement. The garden homes actually own 5 feet of their neighbor's yard, and they have the ability to utilize it to paint their house. They have the legal right to do that. But the neighbor has what's called a permanent use easement of that property to use it as his yard. He's not supposed to build any permanent structures on it, like gazebos, which we've seen in the past. And flower beds is not a good idea either, especially when your kid leaves a hose running in the flower bed and floods your neighbor's house. That's happened also. As those lots were developed, they were all cut individually. A lot of developers will be cheap and just start at one end of a block and scrape all the way to the other end and say, put a house on each lot and put 18 inches of soil around the edges of the house, and that's the landscaping. These were, every slab level was preset and cut specifically, so they all had swales when they were built, so that no matter how hard it rained, the water would run around them. When they did Garden Homes 1, they actually had the owners own the alleys behind them. They stopped doing that on Garden Homes 2 because, you know, when you do that, you've got to be responsible for repaving the alleys yourself as a homeowners association. And I think they wanted to get away from that in Garden Homes 2. But Garden Homes 1, because they own their alleys, they can put in speed bumps, which does have its benefits. So those are the high points I could think of for Royal Ridge and its history. And I hope that's informative to the people that live there. And I hope I answered any questions or that you might have had. And of course, I'm always available to call if there's something that I didn't cover. Anyway, thank you.